Welcome to Road Adventures of Cycling Men of Leisure. As usual, I am Adam, and I am happy to be joined with my good friend, Mr. Michael Sharp.
Hello, Adam. How you doing?
I'm a little bummed, man. I'm just kind of
What?
bummed.
But it's the holiday festive season. See, I wore my Merry Christmas, you filthy animal sweater, the
Yeah,
hat. I mean, I am spreading holiday joy, and you're bummed. What?
I think I should be more clear. I knew that you and I were going to record, and then I was getting all kinds of notes ready, and yesterday, transportation is an industry that's very it's interesting. I mean, sometimes like there's no time to sit down and there's fires to put out left and right, not literal fires by the way, but management fires to put in and out. And but yesterday was one of those days where it was a little bit slower. I was playing around and I actually sent you a picture and Ride the Rockies is
Yeah, you did.
is officially after 37 years is officially now over. And if no one understands, that is also a sister company to Ragbri.
Do you
So,
have some bugle taps music or something we can play?
I
Ah,
well,
no.
I should have played something else, but
Yeah. That's sad because that ride was like the premier ride of Colorado, as far as I'm concerned. I lived out there for 13 years. Ride the Rockies was always a huge ride. It was one that was on our bucket list, even though we're not necessarily good at altitude. But it's just sad.
that's I was looking at it and then guy I work with was like he's like, "Well, do you have you ever ridden out there?" I said, "No." I said, and Adam version 1.0 didn't really look for elevated ride. I'm curious, now, I mean, whatever adventures we do in 2025, and I'm curious how I'll do now with elevation. I'm doing much better when was able to climb a lot of hills this summer, but even, now that I'm training more and more, but I stayed away from rides like that, but man, it looked beautiful. And when every time
It
that you and
is.
I would see the jersey, I would be like, "Hey, look at that!" And then last year I saw a guy, and I was like, "Dude, you're wearing an antique." Because just to be fair, last year they closed the ride too, but they put on their website at the time, "Well, we're going to reevaluate next year." Well, yesterday it was officially over. So
Yeah, they had left the door open last year. I think probably to maybe, and I don't have any insider, probably to see if they could find somebody else to take over or partner with or something like that for the ride. Yeah, another one bites the dust.
And then today, I know you know this, but then today I'm tooling around checking email and Bourbon Burn, of course, you and I are both on all these rides that we've done before. We're on their marketing lists, as
Oh,
you would
yeah.
expect. How do companies survive? They got to get their message out. And so today I get the email from Bourbon Burn that what's on the horizon, and we're going to hold the ride for 2025, but not sure where we're going to go in 2026, which maybe this is making an assumption, but to me, just basically saying that, hey, we're going to be here for 2025. They're even talking about in the email. This is not me paraphrasing how they're going to make it one heck of a year because this is probably going to be it for them. It was a dream, and maybe they'll find someone else to take it over, and maybe they will. I mean, don't get me wrong. Maybe there'll be a passion for someone that will, but it seems to me that it's guiding in the same direction to the point that you and I decided that we are going to go to maybe the last ever bourbon burn. So,
We got to do it. We didn't go last year. And we talked about it. And we've mentioned that they just always have the same maps or the same routes and
mhm.
it doesn't shake it up. And, we're in the heart of bourbon country and there's just all these distilleries here. And, we want to try out and check out different distilleries than just the ones that are on their thing. Potentially being the last year, you called me up or text me today and it's like we need to be there. So if this is it, we can say we closed it out.
Yeah, I mean, and you and I have always been very transparent with our audience. I mean, like with Buffalo Trace is a pretty decent chunk away from the Kentucky Horse Park campground, and each year we just drove over there and then got the bottle release and then gone back. And then one year I think the weather was not really conducive to riding, but then last year we did go back and we did ride last year on that day. But it I don't have any problem being truthful. If there's a day that the weather is just bitter cold, or I shouldn't be, it's at the end of September, but if it was raining, listen, I'm perfectly fine putting the bike in the van and jumping in a different vehicle and going to distilleries. But just being there and being part of everything. And if no one's ever done that ride before, they've got usually bands that play at night and bourbon tasting in camp and bonfires.
The evening makes the ride because they have a dinner, and then after dinner they've got a band playing, and they've got all these distilleries, different distilleries each night. Probably, I don't know, 8
Yeah, 8 to
8
10,
to
somewhere in
10
there. Yeah,
distilleries, with representatives there giving you tastings and that kind of stuff, and just bonfires. It's really, that is what makes that ride, is that social time after it, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the ride is beautiful, and you go by some of the big, huge horse farms and things, which are just blow your mind. But
yeah,
those are really nice. And then they do, our friend Phil with Phil Talks Whiskey in the past has put on those special events in the evenings
yeah.
where they're like hour long, with a particular distillery comes in, and you generally
Yeah,
get some tchotchkes and you do special tastings. And it's really, those are really great events. I mean, especially like Buffalo Trace, when Freddie's there and that type of thing. They've been really good.
yeah. He calls them VIP tastings, and
That's it.
so we've been there for Rebel and Maker's Mark.
Makers.
And so, I mean, there's been some great times there. Like, last year you and I decided to skip it, and then of course, when you get an email, maybe that's their marketing. Maybe we bought into the marketing, but I don't think so. Based upon the way the email was written, it sounds like it's
Yeah. And although I'm glad we didn't go last year, because last year was a rain fest.
yeah, yeah, and they
It
actually
rained
changed their
pretty
whole.
much the whole weekend, and
They actually had to move some of the tastings to the convention center, down the street at the actual
oh yeah.
horse park, and not the campgrounds, but the horse park. So it's a beautiful area, a wonderful area, and we're looking forward to it. And if you're looking for a ride in September, cycling men and or women, depending on who joins us, will be there.
It's a
September,
long weekend ride,
yeah.
so it's not like a week long or anything.
If you've never done it before, just so you know, it's basically you're camping at one location. I know that seems to be a really big perk for a lot of people. They don't have to get up and pack their stuff to stress. So wherever you lay your head at night is where you lay your head for the entire weekend or however long you want to stay. You only set up camp once, and then through the registration, some dinners are included. You're on your own for breakfast and lunch, if I remember correctly, but dinner 2 nights is included.
You know, we'll have to make a point to go down to, what was it, the Broke Spoke?
Yeah.
We had, I forget his name, but we had him on because it's
Luke,
like, yeah, it's like a co-op bike shop or something. Yeah, Luke. So we'll have to go down and check in on him and see how they're doing down there.
don't worry, audience. I keep all of the names, so we'll take care of that. We all have our strong suits. Trust me, if you could see me spell behind the scenes, thank God Michael's here. That and AI. So,
Mostly AI.
hey, buddy, I was trying to give you some credit,
I
but
appreciate it.
but that also leads me to another conversation, which is transitioning. You and I were looking for a second week long ride. We usually, our careers and our family life usually allows you and I both to do 2 week long rides, possibly throw in a weekend. Last year, we
Hmm.
just were able to do the 2 week longs. And then this year, we've got a couple things planned, some non cycling, which I'm excited about.
Oh yeah.
And then, but usually we try. And so you and I spent a considerable amount of time. We were doing some show prep, and then we were looking for a second ride. And that's the other part that's got me bummed out. I mean, we were going state by state by state, and all these states that had these state rides, we would go click. Either the website would be defunct, or there would be like "Hey, we're sorry, we're closed," or after so years, we decided to close it, or whatever. And it just leads me to the conversation you and I have had, the conversation you and I have had with executive director from Bragg Franklin, conversations we've had with multiple people about how these week long or weekend long or extended week long, they're just going away. And
Hmm.
um, I think that's where I'm kind of bummed. Holiday wise, no, I'm excited. I got family coming to town. My project in the basement's coming together, and I mean that's all good. I'm just what you and I do, and what you and I look forward to in this recording this show, and educating some about cycling, and sharing and learning from other people. It's just bumming me out that they're all, not all of them. All is a big word, but a lot of them are closing shop.
Well, Let me give you something that hopefully will lighten your spirit.
Okay.
We cycling right now is like bourbons and whiskeys of the 80s. How about that?
So you're
In the
saying like when
70s.
Blanton's brought back the bourbon?
Yeah, I mean, basically late 70s through the 80s, actually sometimes into the 90s, somewhere into the 90s. Bourbons and whiskeys were out of favor. Everybody wanted the clear things. We've joked about Zima. They wanted vodkas. They wanted things like that. And bourbon fell and whiskey fell out of favor. And that's where they got into like doing all the decorative decanters and stuff, trying to get people to buy it. And now look, I mean, that industry is just blowing the roof off of things. So it's cyclical like everything else. So, it's one of those things. It'll come back after a time.
I just wonder why. I mean, okay, I know a part of it why, and it's this thing right here. We're on YouTube as well. I'm showing a game controller for a PlayStation 5. By the way, it's sitting here collecting dust.
Yeah, sure it is.
Trust me, it is. But I just think that people are just doing different things. I mean, when I was a kid, we lived out in the country and we'd ride our bikes and we'd ride. We'd ride 8 9 miles as a young boy
Man,
in the
that was your
town.
freedom.
Yeah,
Hopped on that bike, you could go anywhere. Well, not anywhere, but what seemed like anywhere to you
yeah.
as a kid. It was awesome. Yeah.
And I'm not insulting anybody, but it seems to me that every time that you and I sign up for a ride, we are like the youngest, some of the youngest people there. I mean, it just seems like younger generation. Now we're not spring chickens, and no offense to you, I'm almost 50, but it just seems like you and I are bringing up the lower age group.
Mhm.
We've done, without being offensive, we've done some rides in Michigan where I'm like,
Oh yeah, we were definitely in the youngest, some of the youngest people there.
yeah, I mean,
We were at the very low point of the age because it went up considerably,
yeah, we were like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to be in bed by 6. So,
and they were.
um, and they almost were.
The problem with it is, and this is my philosophy or my thinking is, a lot of these bike things haven't changed. They haven't changed from, they've been doing it for 40 years. Well, we've been in this for 40 years. Why change it if it isn't broke? The point is that people's concepts of cycling has changed. I mean, like, let's use Franklin Johnson down in Georgia. He turns his rides into, basically mini music festivals. Every night he's got a band or a group playing. So you go to one, you've got stuff to do in the evenings and that type of thing. And you and I have been on rides where you provide your own entertainment. And guess what? We're dumping you in a small town of, 1,000 people. We're giving you nothing to do. I mean, there's only so much, chit chat you can do with people. Now, fortunately, we bring a bottle and some cigars and things like that. But, a lot of rides haven't kind of changed and haven't developed new things and new concepts and say, hey, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to do that. A prime example is some of the charter services that we have used in the past. They have been doing the same type of charter service that they've done for the last 20, 25 years, literally. They haven't changed their model or anything. As we know, a lot has changed in the last 20, 25 years.
Using the same code.
They don't have adequate charging stations. They don't have a lot of this other stuff. But you see people like Padres, people like, what's the other big one? And
Bransel.
what's that?
Bransel.
Bransel. You see a lot of those type of people who every year are changing it up, are adding new things, are bringing stuff in. They're keeping up with it. They're not just saying, this is our model, this is what we're going to follow. They're like constantly evolving every year to keep in pace. And I think that's a lot of these rides have done that. Now, ridership is down, obviously, and less younger people are getting into it, but just my opinion.
I don't think you're wrong. I mean, I think you're spot on. I mean, when I ran my photography business, I mean, if for a while we had the perfect model, and we were banging up. I would had 6 weddings a weekend with my teams, but we were doing the same thing. And I'm not afraid to sit here and not only on video but voice admit that I made a business mistake. I was not changing with the times with the photography. We were doing the same thing for a while and it was working. We were doing wedding shows and boom, 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 boom. And life was great. I mean, and then we stopped getting some gigs. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? and I wasn't changing what we were doing. The market was changing. People's wants, what wishes.
Right here.
Yeah,
This
cell
helped
phone.
do it in too.
Oh yeah, that killed
I'm
me.
right there with you. I mean, I think as we mentioned before, I was also a wedding photographer back in the day, and you just moved into that thing where you were definitely needed, and then all of a sudden you wake up one morning and more people are carting around their cell phone which
Yeah,
has a camera on it. And then I noticed I was merely becoming a person posing people so that the family could take pictures on their cell phones.
I've told that story to you 100 times. Where, I mean, in the prime when I was probably doing 75 to 100 weddings a year, I think 100 might be pushing it. I'll go 75. 75 was probably probably one of my biggest years. I'll never forget. I would line every brides and grooms up, and then I would go to every bridesmaid, and I would have their flowers, and I would make
Mm-hmm.
sure all the flowers were shaped right, and all the men's boutonnieres, and put your hand in your right pocket, and blah 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 blah. And everyone, nope, let's look all, nope, chin up here, look up here, everything. I got okay, all right, guys, and I'm trying to stay positive, and by the time I do that, then some family members takes a picture of the cell phone. They put it on Instagram with a filter. My pictures come out 2, 3, 4 weeks later, depending on what the agreed upon contract was, depending on what the client wanted. By the time they saw my pictures, I was old news. And so going back to cycling, I think you're absolutely right. I think that some of the charters who are like, oh no, we use tote A and we put that in there, and we have this and we do that, and the riders come in and they get their packets, and if you're not changing, you're gonna die. And so, not literally, I hope, but so yeah, I think that that goes along with it. And then when you start looking at these cycling events, I also think about job industries, and people during COVID had to make a lot of changes. And if you have to start over, like, I mean, it's not a secret that everyone always jokes around Steve, who's from Bragg, who always teases you and I, like, "How do you travel so much? Don't you? I want your guys' jobs." And he works for REI, and he's a great man, and we think the world of him. He's a super straggler, part of Team Super Straggler. He always says that. Well, you and I both have jobs where we're lucky, where we can remote work and we can do that kind of stuff. But if you start over in a career and you only get a couple weeks of vacation, I still think that there's like, "Hey, honey, I'm gonna go off cycling for a week." The heck you are. so,
Absolutely.
so I
Absolutely.
think
So it's
I think
just
there's something to do with that, but just kind of a bummer. And then it makes you wonder, like Franklin, like you mentioned, and then like Ragbri, obviously. I think Ragbri's got a few things. It's got concerts at night. It's got,
and
you
it's
know,
just got the notoriety.
yeah.
It was the first, it's the biggest, and it draws in a lot of people who aren't normal cyclists too. I mean, they get a large percentage of people who just I cycle once a year and that's at Ragbri type thing. But
Look what happened on the 50th anniversary. I mean, I think what happened was, "Hey, are you going to the 50th?" And it started out as this massive thing, and no one realized it was going to be 100 degrees. And
yeah,
Matt Phippen decided to make it 500 miles, literally, for the week long ride.
we're not holding it against you, Matt, by the way.
No, I mean 5,500. I mean, I finally got my 50th anniversary book. I got it this week, actually.
Oh, good.
Fancy picture book with all kinds of history and stuff, but. And they apologized. They sent out all kinds of letters to people saying, "We're sorry that, this is not how Ragbri normally does things." And the publisher fell through. And so, hey, listen, things happen. I got it now. So, but yeah, I mean, there's that. But you're right. You and I have been on rides where, okay, that's a 62-mile day. There's not a lot on the road to see. And so we get into town and we think we're going to explore the town, and there's one stoplight and 1,000 people and one
Hmm.
burger shop. And then we're like, okay. And so,
Well, Charlevoix, we mentioned it, I think, last episode. Charlevoix in Michigan.
yeah.
Beautiful town, right on the lake.
Hmm.
Wonderful. They got a strip with like bars and restaurants right there to the water. We stayed there in our ride in Michigan, and we were 6 miles out of town at a school. And so the last thing we wanted to do is ride the hills 6 miles in and then have to ride, add an extra 12 miles onto our thing. So it's that's the kind of thing you're talking about.
It also wouldn't have been, I mean, I thought about that later on. Like, okay, well, if you go to Ragbri, you see bikes going all day, all night. People went into town, they went to eat, and then they ride their bike back to camp. That road that we were on by that school would not have been safe to ride at night. So, uh,
Hills, it had no shoulder. I mean, and it was out in the country. so there's no light. So I mean, yeah.
Anyways, so
All right, let's talk about something more exciting here. You're gonna bum me out, and I'm gonna have to take off my Santa hat here.
no, no, don't take off your
Yeah.
Santa hat. I mean, um, by the way, I'm not going to tell you now, but I ordered a Christmas gift for you, so I'm waiting for it to come in. So,
Oh, did you?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think you are really going to love it. So,
Well, I hope that Jeep Gladiator is in blue, like a dark blue. And I wanted the one with the sunroof, so I hope you remembered that.
it's about 2 inches long and come off on it. It's a Matchbox car, but buddy, you do you. It has a little thing that says if I'm upside down, flip me over. So
Yeah, absolutely.
no, but so the positive news out of all that whining is that we do have another event on the books. So we'll be going to
Yes.
Bourbon Burn. So you can.
Join us. We'll drink some bourbon. Everyone in there is drinking bourbon, so it's kind of nice.
I'm going to move on. I'm going to talk about our artist who made our logo.
Hmm.
I'd like to
Brian.
give a Brian is brianleefritz.com, spelled BrianLeefritz.com. The man does beautiful, beautiful bike portraits. So if you like a artist rendering or drawing of your bicycle, or maybe you're into tandems and you don't have one, or maybe you want a tricycle, or maybe you want something your bike in nature. The gentleman is extremely talented artist, and so he is offering a special code with I'm sorry, $25 off a bike portrait with a special code of leisure. So if you go to brianleefritz.com, we would like to help our friend out, and please go check him out. There's some he does a lot more than just bicycles. He's huge
Well,
into birds and
and
everything else.
he's a cyclist himself.
He
We've
is.
actually been on a ride with him before, and he's done our logos, and
Mhm.
he's done a lot of. He started to really get into like jerseys because I know he did the Michigan's jersey, and he did some of the graphic work and that type of stuff. And yeah, I was going to mention, I've seen some of his birds that he does, and they are fantastic. So I
Bought
mean,
my
it's
wife
really good
one.
stuff.
She's big into hummingbirds, and he it was one of the best gifts my wife has ever enjoyed, more than jewelry or anything. It was a beautiful portrait of a hummingbird doing what hummingbirds do. So check it out. They hum, they float almost like they're floating, the wings spinning 5 million miles a second. Our leisure community, kind of torn on this one because our leisure community is the one and only executive director of Bragg, Mr. Franklin Johnson.
Okay, all right.
He, first of all, made a generous contribution, and
He
we'd
did.
like to, we'd like to
Thank you.
we'd like to formally thank you, sir. That was very, very unexpected, very surprised. I had to look 3 times, so thank you so much. It really helps out a lot on behalf of Michael and myself, and Michael can speak for himself, but just want to say thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, he's always been a very big supporter of our show and what we've done, and so we certainly appreciate it. So
He also has given a guess for something that you and I do, and listener spotlight. So I think we'll move into that. I'm going to let you give the clues from the last
okay.
episode first, and then I'll give you his guess.
All right, the clues for listener spotlight for the last episode is as followed. This city was founded in the 1870s. It is named for a Native American village. It was built at its location due to the railroad. Mills became a big part of its early economy and actually really was a driver of its economy for over 70 years. The town itself is surrounded by 3 lakes. In the first 40 years of this community, they suffered 3 fires. So there was a lot of, throwing buckets of water and rebuilding. And this town's main drag did not get its name from a stand up routine, but it could have. There we go.
So Mr. Franklin Johnson says the listener spotlight guess is Spokane, Washington. The comedy routine is a stretch with the spoken comedy routine stand up question mark. Looking forward to chatting this week. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But the gentleman has guessed Spokane, Washington.
Spokane, Washington. Well, Franklin, I can give you a sixth of a point that you got the first letter of the city's name correct, but it is not Spokane.
Well,
It does start with an S. That's something.
you know what we need? We need that soundbite that says, "Go get your shine box. You lose. You get nothing." Like mix it up from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
That's
So
right.
okay, that's my homework. You've given me three. We've given me a trumpet for taps,
Taps.
and then I'm writing these down. Taps, and then go get your shine box, and then you lose. You get nothing.
You lose.
Franklin, appreciate you writing in though, but
We appreciate it. It was a good guess. Do you want to know what it is?
I do.
Our spotlight, listener
Okay.
spotlight community is Seneca, South Carolina.
Wow. What part? I'm forgive me, but what part of what part of South Carolina is that? Besides you saying Seneca,
It's in the Seneca, South Carolina part.
I knew you were going to say that. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's hear it. Let's hear.
Use Google Maps, for God's sakes.
Okay.
Founded in the 1870s, it was named for a Native American village and also a nearby river. It was originally named Seneca, Seneca, ESS, Seneca, and then later it was just shortened to Seneca. It was built at its current location because there was a crossing railroad tracks there. The town is surrounded by three lakes. You got Lake Kiowee, Lake Jakissee. Sorry, I'm not from here. And Lake Hartwell. And then the town's main drag didn't get its name from from a stand-up routine, but it could have. One of the main drags in town is called Cat Alley, and it got its name from like a joke that people used to say because there was a lot of fish markets there, and they cleaned the fish. That attracted a lot of cats, and the joke became that you can't ram another cat in that alley because there was just so many cats there looking for the free meal. So then it became known as Cat Alley.
Gotcha.
So there you go.
Well, that's pretty cool. By the way, I want you to know that. Sorry, you said cat.
So we thank our listeners from Seneca, South Carolina.
Absolutely. Thank you, all listeners, but especially Seneca, South
Yes.
Carolina, which, by the way, is in the northwestern part of South Carolina, by the Georgia borderline on the northeastern part of Georgia, right there. So thank you so very much. And you're right. I went to the old Google here.
So we've ridden actually pretty close to that.
We have.
Yeah.
We have. I mentioned when Mr. Franklin Johnson said, looking forward to chatting this week.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, a lot of our audience will remember that we were trusted with a very well-kept secret, the 2024 Big Brag route.
There's a ceremony and everything to swear us to secrecy, and there's a whole it gets crazy, but
I almost couldn't get off my knee. I put one knee down. I was bowing and
bowing and
But
we're sworn to secrecy again this year, aren't we?
We sure are. So in 2024, you and I heard from multiple people who said love the show, signed up because we listened to your show. And so it was wonderful that he trusted us with the route before.
Yes, it is.
And the reason why we record before is because he releases his video at the strike of midnight, New Year's Eve midnight. And then he has agreed upon, he being the executive director of Bragg, that we can release our show at noon on the 1st. Now, why is that important? Because if you've watched it at midnight and then you listen to our show at noon, you'll actually, if you sign up before midnight on the 1st of January, 2025, you actually save $50. So you can go to brag.org, brag.org, and you can sign up. And then if you sign up before midnight, January 1st, 2025, you'll save $50 for a week-long ride.
Why are they waiting till that time?
Well, they don't have to wait.
I mean, they know they're going.
Right.
We're going to be there. They know they're going to be there. Why don't they just do it now?
Well, they can, and when they do that under the team name, they should. If they don't have a team that they already belong to, because if they do, we're loyal. We understand that. Unless you want to switch, of course. But if you're looking to join a team, put cycling men or women of leisure. We can now announce that we will have two teams. Once again, we'll have the men of leisure and the women of leisure. And you and I are working on something very special for that, actually.
We're working on that. It's a slow process, but we're working on a very special event activity, something fun.
That's right.
During the week, and it should be a good time. We've always had a good time there.
Yep.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Now, I know we promised that. Yes.
Now we know Franklin listens. So, Franklin, if you could just turn your radio down for, say, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, it would be great. Thank you. Continue.
A lot of you have reached out to me for any kind of hint, anywhere that I could tell you anything about the route. And I'm going to break the rules a little bit. I'm going to tell you.
Don't listen, Franklin. Where is it?
It's going to Georgia.
We will be riding in Georgia.
That's right. That's right. So, ladies and gentlemen, check us out on the 1st of January at noon Eastern time, which bonus, sir, 11 Central your time.
That's right. You can check us out on the podcast through any of your podcast things, or you can check us out on YouTube.
That's right. You can watch us or listen to us. And
I got to say,
yes,
Franklin really got into the spirit of it.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much, but yeah, he sure did.
That's all we'll say.
Yeah.
Franklin really got into the spirit of the show on this one. So you'll definitely want to listen because it was a lot of fun.
A lot of good information.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that if you are considering going, or maybe like our friend Tripp, who wrote me behind the scenes, Tripp has signed up for Bragg, and he suggested that we do a contest, and we'll get into that in a second. And Tripp, thank you so much for the recommendation. Tripp's already signed up.
Thank you, Tripp. He's been on the team a couple of years now.
Yeah. And for a guy like Tripp who's already signed up, I still think there's value add to listen to what Franklin has to say, because you'll get a complete breakdown of the route and some of the things of the areas that it's going, and that's all I'm going to say. So otherwise, my contract is broken. I got to pay back the deposit. It's just an ugly thing.
It just gets ugly, and then lawyers will get involved.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with lawyers. Yeah, I already pay them enough. I would use a Shawshank Redemption line here. Blank and A, bunch of bastards. But so anyways, good show coming out on the 1st. Excited about it. And so just to be clear, midnight, New Year's Eve, on the Bragg YouTube page, you can find the video that they usually put together, which tells you the route release video. But for a comprehensive breakdown of where the ride is going and some specific items about each.
For details
About the route, come check it out. And we're excited to partner once again with Bragg, and we appreciate their continued trust. So thank you, and looking forward to it. And so we are signed up ourselves, just to be clear. And we both used Cycling Men of Leisure as our team name. We're pretty sure we already have the 10. I think we already have the 10.
Yeah.
But so
now you realize when we started to say that about Franklin and we were going to tell people, he probably swerved off the road because he generally listens when he's driving. Is like, what are those guys going to say?
I can picture his Ford F-150 with the cab on the back and
swerving to the side of the road.
I'm calling them boys up, but no, we would never do that. We appreciate the partnership and really looking forward to that. So I'm gonna segue into something a little bit different.
Okay, what do we got?
We are going to something called Podfest.
Yes, this is exciting.
I mean,
it's ironic.
Yeah.
As well.
So we had already planned a trip down to Orlando. We were going to make it a kind of like a guys golfing, record some podcasts, do some dinner.
What do you mean, kinda?
Well,
it's going to be an extra long guys weekend. We were going to golf, eat, and podcast.
Yeah, and smoke cigars somewhere.
Cigars somewhere in there. Absolutely.
So then our platform of where we launch our podcast was advertising this thing called Podfest 2025. And at first I was kind of like, Podfest 20, it's like convention for podcasters. I mean, do you get in a room and that's exactly what it is. So happens to be in Orlando the same time you and I are going to be there. And
how ironic.
We submitted a little sublimation about our show and why we would be interested in going over there. And for me, it's 2 reasons. One, I guess not just two. Two is putting it in lanes. A few reasons that I was interested is they have their own show, and I love to be able to put faces to the names of their show because I've heard their humor, and their show basically talks about how to podcast, some marketing ideas. An example, we have a cycling podcast. We should be going to cycling stores, even if we travel on our own. Let's say you and the family go down to Florida. If you're going to run into town, maybe look if there's a cycling store, maybe take a couple business cards and say, hey, so they talk about things like that, how to market your show. And then they have some funny stories and changes that on the platform of how they do things. So I thought that's interesting. But just networking and finding out how we could do our show better, or maybe get more listeners, or spread the word. And so uh, we were selected to go over there, and we will be attending Podfest 2025 in Orlando.
Wheat. We're still going to golf, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That
and
will not affect the golfing or
no,
podcasting
no,
or smoking a cigar
no.
or eating. Okay, yeah, it's just ironic that it's the same weekend, and it'll be fun. It'll be interesting, a new adventure. We can have some stuff to chat about.
As long as it's not golfing like we did last time. That picture comes up on my phone once in a while when it's 42 degrees and we both have stocking caps on meeting.
Yeah, that wasn't. I was in Florida. I wasn't expecting to be in Kansas golfing, but
I know.
hopefully it warmed up in the
It did
afternoon.
warm up, and we actually got to meet Armando's old coworkers from the cruise ship. So
That was pretty fun.
that was a good day.
So we're going to Podfest. That'll be fun. We'll tell everybody what we learned and that kind of thing.
Well, I want to mention your webpage work.
Mm,
You not only by day you are a business architect. No one knows what that is, but
I do a lot of work.
and by night you highlight as a web designer. No,
Eh,
luckily for us, they make it GoDaddy makes it pretty simple to be able to throw something together. So, but on a serious note, you took the time and you put all of our listener spotlights down, and you strategically space them out. So if the show hasn't come out yet, you don't put it down there yet to give people ample
no,
time.
no, yeah, you don't get it ahead of time. But I'm a couple weeks behind. But I'm going to be updating it. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to go back also and putting the episode information in there, like the season and the episode. So it's like, you're like, well, have they ever done, Boaz, Mississippi? I'm from there. And it's like, oh, look at this. They did it. Doggone it. I missed it. Then you could go to that episode and listen.
Have we done Boaz, Mississippi?
We
I
have
don't
never
remember.
done Boaz,
Okay,
Mississippi.
okay, okay. I was just wondering. I'm like,
I
yeah,
think Boaz is actually in Alabama. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
good, because I was like, man, I know I record this show with you. I'm not an
You
AI
just
guy.
blank out. It's like, it's his turn now. I'm going to
On
just.
St. Louis, I'm out. But no, we're just definitely excited that you did the webpage. You also put some highlights of our year out there, some photographs and stuff. And so there could be people out there who have listened to our show who have no idea what we look like. And if you go to our webpage, cyclingmenofleisure.com, I am the charming, charismatic one. And you, sir, would describe yourself as
The very charming and charismatic one.
there's lots of overweight pictures of me. I'm Adam, and if you've never met me, but we need to get some new
But that
pictures
is
there.
good, though,
Yeah,
because that shows all the work that you've done to get to where you're at. It shows your
true.
journey.
Almost been a year now.
I know. I'm very
Believe
proud
it
of
or
you, man.
not. I appreciate that. But yes, so please check us out. I appreciate your work on the webpage. There's all kinds of information up there. We got jersey store if you're looking for a jersey. We got a t-shirt store and our
Rides
friends.
that we've done,
Yeah,
places we've been. Yeah.
absolutely. I'm going to mention Dennis Keeler, Scott Garwick, and Alex Bell.
Yes.
Just my way of always saying thank you for being monthly supporters. And so thank you so much for that. And besides that, you haven't asked me this in a long time. So let me
Dear.
play with my toys here.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, my best friend, has asked for a little segment of
Rants of dissatisfaction.
Buddy, take the floor.
Do I have the floor?
You have the floor.
Yeah. This has been bothering me for a while. And finally, I was like, we need another rant of dissatisfaction, because here's my rant. Self-checkout.
I hate them.
I understand the purpose of self-checkout. Oh, hey, you can self-checkout. You get in, get out quicker.
Cost people their jobs. Keep going.
Yeah, you're right. But that's what they market it as. But bottom line, behind the scenes, we really know there's a bunch of bean counters going, you know what? We can get rid of some of our staff.
Mm-hmm.
It helps on that. But what annoys me is you now take me, I go to my local grocery store, I'm buying this, that, and other things. I come up there. You want me to check out, do self checkout. I mean, you kind of push me towards that way. And it happens at big box stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, all those kind of things. What do I get out of it?
You get
You
used
know,
to the
if
break room.
I do what?
You get used to the break room. Have you ever seen that thing on Facebook? It said, "The cops arrested me today. I don't know why. I was just in the break room. Break room of a place I had to check myself out at. Don't I ever
Yeah,
deserve to get a break?"
that's my point. It's like if you want me to do self checkout, shouldn't I be getting a couple percentage points off of my tab? Because now I'm doing the work. In fact, you've got me doing the work of who an employee of yours that you're no longer paying. What's in it for me? So I get a little annoyed by this. And then here's the other thing. There are two more points to this.
He's
A
really
lot of
working. He's
man, don't you caught me on a weekday. I was really going wild earlier. A lot of stores, and I will, a local Dollar General. We have one here in town. We got a lot of them. I don't know in your area if you've got Dollar Generals, but we got tons of them here. They kind of take up the space of a Walmart in smaller towns where Walmart would never go. A little bit of everything. Nowadays they have groceries and everything. They put in, a lot of their stores have put in these automatic check yourself out things. They put them in, they went to all the cost to put them in. And then about 6 months later, they stopped using them because they were complaining that people were ripping them off. People would just not ring things in, or people would ring things in and just walk out the door and not pay. And the thing about it is, I read a couple articles and they acted surprised. It's like you acted surprised that you want people to ring themselves out and, be honest. It's like I myself would never walk out of a store without paying for an item, but there's people out there that would. It's just the nature of how our society is. But then the stores are like perplexed and it's like, we're losing money. We got to stop using this. So you spend all that money. You didn't think about this ahead of time, spend all this money. And now in our store, we've got 3 of these big machines that are just taking up floor space where you could have merchandise. But now you got these 3 machines that just sit there that have signs on them saying out of order. So it's just kind of annoying. The final point I'll make, I have not been trained in grocery store checkout at all. Not in my resume, not even when I was a kid. Why are you laughing at me?
You never worked at a grocery store?
I never worked at a grocery. When I was a kid, I had the greatest jobs. We'll talk about it later, but I had
Okay.
awesome jobs when I was a kid. Never worked in a grocery store or fast food. I don't know anything about this. Okay, I'm sitting there at the grocery store doing it. Produce. I've got a onion. I don't. It's yellowish. It's whitish. It's Valdea. Is this a Spanish onion? Is this a Peruvian onion? Is this or a potato? Is it a Yukon Gold? Is it this? Is it that? An apple? It's like, is that Fiji apple or whatever?
It's the cheapest one on the list is what it is.
But they don't give me the price list. They're like, you got to go into the little thing and search. And like, there's a whole page of like onions and a whole page of apples. It's like, it's a red apple. I don't know what is what. I didn't pay any attention. I just went. It's like, okay, that produce looks good. It looks fresh. I'll take that. So now I don't know. So now I have to push the little button. And then it's like, please wait. Assistance is coming. So now I've got to wait. And, I can look over at the customer service desk and these guys are chatting. And now I can kind of see him go, I got to go over and help this guy. And he comes over and he's like, yeah, I don't know what kind of apple this is. And then he goes about going, well, all you've got to do, sir, is push right here and look up your item. And then you just select the item. Of course, he's just like flying. And like, we just select the item, just like right here. It's this apple right there. Talking to me like I'm just an idiot that I'm supposed to know what kind of apple or onion this is. So,
No, your app.
no. So then, they're talking down to me. Now I feel like an idiot. And it's like, excuse me, I've never been trained in grocery store anything. I've not been trained in produce. So don't sit there and talk down to me that you've made me check out my own groceries and I don't know what a piece of produce is. Why don't you guys stick a little label in every single one of those so I can just scan it?
Now, a lot of them in my stores do have a little label on them. Like, to this day, because of my grocery store career, which was very short-lived, bananas 4011 for the PLU. So you had to go to the computer, type 4011. To this day, I know that. So it's just, they've never changed it, right? And so every now and then that girl will come over and say, "You need help with that?" I said, "No, that's 4011." It's like I'm God's gift to like the scanner, but a lot of them, like you're right, like Honeycrisp apples, they come around once a year or whatever, and or at least by us they do anyway, since it's a tundra the rest of the year. But every now and then, I always want to like that sign on Facebook that says, "I went to the regular cashier, it was $211. I got a second opinion of the self checkout."
That just really bugs me. It's like, if you're going to want me to do the work, why don't you throw a couple percentage off my thing? I'm not going to steal from you, but you could, shave a couple percentages off my bill for doing somebody else's job. And then certainly if I need help with it, don't talk to me like I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I have not been trained.
And Home Depot's the worst because, like, if you're buying bolts and they got like the YU on there, I'm like, how the heck do you? I mean, they got the book and then going through there.
Or when you buy trim or something by the foot.
Yeah.
Well, number one, it's like, well, yeah, it's just
How
like
many feet is
whatever.
this?
What's that?
How many? Like when the girl
Yeah.
said, "How many feet is this?" It looks like 8 to me.
I don't know.
You got 18 carts worth. How many sheets of plywood are here? I don't know. Looks like 6. I'm not sure.
There's a couple. I don't know.
Yeah, not sure.
So anyway, that's my rant for today. It just really, really bugs me. I understand why they do it. I don't appreciate the kind of the reasons that they really promote. Oh, you'll get out faster and speedier and all this. Ultimately, it's just to reduce their bottom.
Okay, well, believe it or not, this time I do not have any
Rants of dissatisfaction.
but I'm glad that I was able to give you the floor to allow you to have rants of dissatisfaction.
So you're happy with the world, huh?
I wouldn't say I'm happy with the world.
Nothing that you want to voice.
Let's talk about that Dollar General stock that keeps.
Well, that's the reason why the Dollar General stock goes down, because they invested all of this money on self-checkout machines, and then they realized they were losing more money from people just stealing from them, so they shut them all down. It's taking up floor space, and they're still trying to pay off that investment. When someone didn't go, you know what? Checkout's right by the door. Somebody could just check it out or just walk right by it and go straight out the door. I mean, who didn't foresee this?
Yeah, I mean, many times when like they just redid our whole Meijer, and depending on where you shop in the world, Meijer is very predominant, grocery store here in Michigan, and
It's more than a grocery store.
yeah, it's
like a Walmart almost.
Yeah, they
you
got
can buy a little bit of everything in there.
everything. Yeah. So they just spent like probably millions of dollars redoing ours here in my little town that I live in here. And in the old days, they'd have like 27 registers and only 2 of them would be open.
Mm-hmm.
And so how did they fix that? They put in like 27 self-checkouts. But the problem is they have one employee, one, to like if you buy booze, then you scan it and the light goes on. You got to wait for the guy to come over and be to check your ID, which is good. I get it. I mean, not everyone should be
Got to
buying
follow
booze.
the rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they only have one person to help me with my produce.
Exactly. And so now you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, so that doesn't really help out. I guess if you're going to cut employees, at least have a few, because there are times like 5 o'clock. I bet you that, I mean, I try not to go in there, but I bet you it's a nightmare over there. So I can get behind you on that. I can, but as far as rants of dissatisfaction, maybe there's just too many right now going on. I
Can't pick.
Yeah, I can't pick. So,
well, thank you for giving me the floor to rant a little bit.
Are you kidding? I get to play with my voice toys, which I know everybody loves. And so,
oh yeah, everybody loves those.
Let's just beep him real quick there. So, why don't we round out this show by first of all saying Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Kwanzaa, Festivus, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. On behalf of myself and Michael and our families, yours, we wish you nothing but health and happiness for the next coming year. And besides that, we'll bring it up with the listener spotlight.
All right, this one's going to be a good one.
St. Louis.
So close.
Dang it.
So close.
Dang it.
He's not even in the neighborhood. Anyway, this
dissatisfaction.
Okay, put your hands in your pocket. Stop pushing buttons.
Fine.
It was incorporated in the 1880s. The early economy depended on mining, agriculture, and timber. If you are a father, you should really appreciate this town.
Okay.
It started as a trading post. The city's name comes from a native language. In 1974, great year, 1974, this city was in the world spotlight, and a former resident of this city helped influence the vision of a perfect Christmas. See what I did there? I threw a little Christmas thing there.
Like it.
So there you go.
Well,
Pretty easy.
yeah, because you did the homework.
Yeah, but still, it's pretty easy.
Will you be giving another guess away?
If I need to, I could give another guess. You want me to give another guess away, like in the middle of the week on our
Yeah.
Facebook page?
Yeah. People are traveling. I mean, think about it. A lot of times people like to travel when they listen to us. And so they could be catching up for a few different episodes. And for that, we say thank you.
Well, what's the extra hint gonna do?
Well, they're going to maybe log on to the Facebook page a couple days later.
While they're driving? Oh yeah, no.
I'm sure some do. I'm sure some
No,
do.
this
Not
one
our
is
listener, so.
once you hear what this one is, if nobody guesses it, you'll be like, man. But
Well,
it's not saying. Here's your hint. It's not St. Louis.
fair enough. What do we got coming up in 2025? We're working on
Oh, man,
Bike-
lots of great stuff.
a lot of good stuff. We're working on an interview with Bike Virginia. Bike Virginia, we reached out to them. They had a week-long ride. They're looking at maybe doing a couple weekend rides. And
That would be the state, not my ex-girlfriend.
yes,
I
sir.
used to actually date a girl named Virginia, so I'm just
Well-
clarifying.
Well, we hope that she is listening because we need all the listeners.
She's not, but hey, Bike Virginia. Yeah, that should be interesting.
So we got a gentleman we've been communicating with back and forth. We're looking at having Padres cycling on. They do camping and rides and events. And so we're looking at having like a charter service. And so we're looking at having Padres in, they call themselves.
We've ran into them all over the place.
So we're looking at having those guys on. We're working on that. You mentioned him earlier, Phil Collin, not to be confused with Phil Collins, but Phil Collin from Phil Talks Whiskey. We're going to have him on after the year. And so we've got a couple great stuff for the show. You and I are getting in person together in person. Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
Yeah.
First one is January 16th through the 20th. We will be in Orlando. So we purposely made reservations for some meals over there at Disney. We are staying on the Disney property. Michael and I are both timeshare owners there. And so we booked some dinners over there. We purposely made higher numbers than we currently have. And so we're hoping that if someone wants to join us for dinner, if they're close by and they want to come out, please, we'd love to have you out and we'd love to visit with you over there.
If not, we'll sit around and have a bourbon for you.
That's right. We'll think about you. But so if you're interested in doing that, please check us out. We're actually going to be doing some show recording over there. So who knows? Maybe you might actually get to be on the show in person. So we'd love to have you as a guest. So
And we're going to Podfest.
Going to Podfest. And I don't know if you're supposed to say like, dude, we're going to Podfest.
We're going to Podfest. Yeah.
What is it? We're all going to sit
Turn
around
it
and
up.
pod. Yeah. I remember those commercials. Well, turn it up, dude.
Turn it up, dude. And then what? Then when else are we get together?
Your work conference. I'm flying down for that.
Can you sit in on the conference for me?
So close, buddy. I'll be the guy on the golf course.
Yeah. So basically, I've got to go there for work, but in the evenings, we're going to get together and do some eating and some podcasting and that kind of thing. And
yes, and if the weather's great, we're going to be dishonest with our wives. Just kidding, wives. But one time I was in Fort Lauderdale during the winter, and it was icy here. And Lauren said, "How's the weather?" I'm like, it's raining. It wasn't raining.
All we're going to do is say, you remember the last time we were golfing in Florida together?
Exactly.
And just stop it right there.
Yeah, right there.
We didn't say it's like that. See, we're answering a question indirectly, not answering the question. So
it was 42 degrees when we started that day, I think.
Thank God your wife had a stocking cap.
Yeah, I know.
Because I needed to borrow it.
Yeah, I think we used them on the way down from Michigan, thinking we were going to Florida that we wouldn't need them. And so you and I packed up the clubs and gloves, and then we were bundling up in between holes. But then it got warmer later on.
It did get warmer, but the first 9 was pretty brisk. And then what else we got?
Well, believe it or not, I'm coming back out because I've got a conference for work, and you're great state of Kansas. Well, actually, the conference is in Missouri, but Kansas City,
We're close enough.
good enough. Every time you drive over there, I don't freaking know if we're in Kansas or Missouri. Like, it goes back and forth. And I'm like, am I in Kansas or Missouri right now? And you're like, yes.
Half the time, I don't even really know where I'm at. I mean, I know where the line is, and it's not like
Sure.
part of it follows the river. That makes it easy, but then part of it doesn't. So then when somebody says, are we in Kansas or Missouri? You really have to start thinking, okay, are we on that side or this? You're just in Kansas City, but that would be cool. And if you've got some free time, I can certainly, hook you up with some good food and hit Riegers and all that stuff.
I will definitely be. I'll be calling you for sure. Actually, I'm probably going to tell you beforehand because I got to book a flight. I might need a place to stay.
Always welcome.
So we got a lot of good stuff, and then when it comes to riding, we got Big Brag, of course, which is going to Georgia, and then we've got Bourbon Burn. We're still looking for that. We have emailed about another week-long ride, and so we'll update as we can. But a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff in 2025.
The second ride could be really good. We've tossed around some really interesting rides.
That's right.
So I'm excited. I will be excited when we're able to announce where exactly we're going.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to be cool, depending on whichever one we choose. So.
Yeah, I've been looking at my emails, but I assume that rides like that don't check their, emails all the time. I mean, it's probably very slow times. So hopefully, and it's, holiday season. People are enjoying their families. And
worst comes to worst, we'll go to Vegas and we'll spend 20 minutes on the exercise bike in the casino and then go have fun. Does that count?
ladies and gentlemen, in that case, that will be a great day for a bike ride.
Bike ride.